We're going to keep moving forward here. Another important effort, following up on our earlier story about the march to Gaza, another important effort to continue to push against the genocide being conducted against the Palestinian people. We are very, very honored to be joined here by Roua Daas, who's an organizer with the Palestinian Youth Movement, as we discuss the Anti-Genocide Pledge. Roua, thank you so much for being back with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, great to have you here. And for all of us, of course, who follow the Palestinian Youth Movement on social media, we probably heard a little bit about this Anti-Genocide Pledge. But for those who maybe haven't heard, give us a sense, what is the pledge and what are the goals of getting folks to sign it?
Yeah, yesterday was the 600th day of genocide in Gaza. So for over 600 days now, we have witnessed some of the most heinous crimes in modern history. Lost more than 54,000 martyrs, with estimates we know being closer to 200,000 people, and half of them being children. 50% of Gaza's infrastructure has been destroyed. 215 journalists have been murdered. It's the starvation that we are seeing, the withholding of humanitarian aid. So just all of these absolutely horrific things that we have continued to see for 19 months now. And on the 600th day of genocide, the US completed the 800 plane load of
Wow.
bombs and ammunition to Israel.
Mm.
So Israel and the US have inflicted a level of mass destruction that is almost unfathomable. And we, the people, the majority, the masses of the world are tired of living in a world where we open our phones and see children screaming in pain as they're being burned alive. And ultimately, like, that is what this pledge is about. The anti-genocide pledge is a promise to stand with Palestine, and not just in words, but in action. It's a promise that despite, how many lies they tell, despite how long they prolong the genocide, despite how they try to repress the grassroots movement, we're not going to forget Palestine. We have pledged to make a lifetime commitment to upturn the very system that has made this genocide possible, and upturn the very system that has allowed it to continue. And so it's a lifetime commitment to raising our voices, to protesting, and to holding governments and corporations and institutions accountable for their role in supporting the Israeli genocide, occupation, and colonization of the Palestinian people. But importantly, it's also a show that the masses stand with Palestine and are united under the demands which are at the center of Palestinian liberation. This pledge was launched by a coalition of Palestinian organizations and individuals in Palestine, in the Arab world, in the diaspora, all united around the key demands, which are the foundation for national unity. Demands such as denouncing the genocide against the Palestinian people, denouncing the use of starvation, opposing Israel's occupation of Palestine, supporting an immediate ceasefire, affirming the right for Palestinians to return to their land, demanding an arms embargo, and of course, calls for the liberation of the thousands of Palestinian political prisoners that are being held by Israeli forces right now. And so, we launched this pledge last week, and in just 1 week, 18,000 people across 118 countries have already pledged and taken social media by storm, with dozens of organizations posting about this pledge. And signatures include really prominent leaders, people like former Palestinian political prisoner Omar Assaf, Sanat Daqqa, who was just imprisoned today, the activist journalist and wife of the martyred political prisoner Walid Daqqa, Carlos Latouf from Brazil, Imam Omar Suleiman from the US, leaders from South Africa and Chile and everywhere. And so thousands from all over the world have declared that they are unequivocally in support of Palestinian liberation and in opposition to genocide and to Zionism.
I think it really is a testament to just how big of a gap there is between governments like in the US and across Europe continuing to fund and arm this horrific Israeli genocide in Gaza and, increasingly in the West Bank as well. Whereas people across the board are opposed to what Israel's doing. And I mean, this pledge is one of many ways that it's demonstrated. And I'm just curious, what does that contrast reveal about the gap I just mentioned between political elites and the global public? And I'm really asking you this because I think it's worth highlighting, because I think people start to feel like everything is so futile, because nothing seems to have shifted, right? Israel's still getting all these weapons, an endless supply, all this support. But actually, the majority of people oppose this, and that matters.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, as you said, Western countries have refused to acknowledge the overwhelming global support to end the genocide. Mainstream media has tried to downplay and distort the truth and minimize the massive size of the global movement, and silence the voices in the streets. They're trying to portray Palestine and the Palestinian movement as a fringe movement, right? To isolate us from the masses of the people. But we know the truth. We know that our movement is a people's movement, and the people have taken it upon themselves to fill the void that is left by these supposed guardians of human rights, right? And these government, state actors, and much of the Western world that has remained complicit or silent. And so people are taking this and taking the matters into their own hands. And there's been a visible shift that has moved from tens of thousands of people pouring into the streets into targeted work that attempts to end the flow of weapons, get aid into Gaza, and release Palestinian prisoners. So in recent months, we've seen the global movement for Palestine take bolder and braver steps. For example, activists got onto the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, risking their lives to deliver life-saving humanitarian aid, only to be targeted by the Israeli drone strike. International organizations, I know y'all just had SIF on. International organizations have launched the March to Gaza, with hundreds planning to travel to Egypt and march to Rafah in a couple weeks in order to demand the flow of aid. For over 7 months, a grassroots people's embargo against Maersk, the largest shipping company in the world, has taken logistics and the logistics and weapons industry by whirlwind. And so I think all of these efforts are a reflection, right? They represent a growing popular demand that everyday people have now committed their lives to. And this is an end to the genocide, an end to the occupation, and a full rejection of Zionism and imperialism. And because we've seen all of these efforts, right, we already know that the world stands with Palestine. This pledge, the Anti-Genocide Pledge, is how we record that. It's how we quantify it. It's a historical record of the world's mass rejection of Zionism and the mass movement that has risen up in this moment. It's a people's record. I mean, it's how we are writing our own history. And it's a tool for the masses to register their historic position against genocide and their unwavering commitment to the Palestinian people. And so really what it is, it's a tool it's a tool to record that the Palestine movement is not a fringe movement. It is, in fact, the majority of the world.
I think that's a crucially important, we talked about my age earlier, Rania. I've been working in the Palestine Solidarity Movement since 2002, and I mean the level of which the rejection of Zionism, the solidarity with Palestine, the understanding of the issues has changed since that time. It's honestly, it feels almost unimaginable how much it's grown, and I think that's the important thing I wanted to ask you about as well, Roua, because I think maybe sometimes part of where people get confused here is we're not dealing with sandcastles. These are some of the most powerful forces on earth, the imperialist forces, their Zionist, lackeys and others who have built up. It's a massive machine. It literally controls the earth. And I think sometimes maybe we discount how important things like this pledge, like a march, like a flotilla, like a divestment campaign, like something like that sometimes can seem small in the scale of so much of just terrible things we're seeing, are actually crucially important steps forward against an enemy an opponent that I think many people felt could never be moved 1 inch and would control the narrative in every possible way, like they have for many decades.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you brought that point up. That's such an important point. But I think that what I want to draw our attention to is the fact that Zionists have spent billions of dollars on propaganda to try to salvage what's left of their image, right? Billions to try to make up for actually what the grassroots movement has been able to accomplish despite all odds, despite all of the things that you just named, despite the media reporting lies and manufacturing consent for genocide. The anti-genocide pledge, I think, is important because it is a direct confrontation with Zionist attempts to erase the mass character of our movement. You know, a few months ago, the Israeli government allocated an additional $150 million for the foreign ministry for quote unquote diplomacy efforts, right? In the past week alone, foreign ministry officials have given more than 130 interviews to international media. Since the beginning of this year, the ministry has held over 25 briefings and press conferences for foreign outlets, compared to just 4 throughout all of 2024 and none in 2023. And so the reason why I bring this up is because it's so clear that the Zionist movement is attempting to distort and discredit and defy all logic to undermine the historic and popular support for Palestine that has taken the world by storm. They have kicked their efforts into high gear because they know that what we are doing is working, and they know that the world sees Israel for what it is. And so we need to employ our own tools to counteract this and to counteract these efforts and this money that's being poured into this. And it's easy for us to do that because we know that the truth is on our side, right? And we know that people see that. And so no matter how much money they spend on these diplomacy efforts or intimidation tactics or whatever it is, every day a new celebrity is hoisting the Palestinian flag on their stage, right? We even in the US, we would be hard pressed to find a graduation without a single kufiya. And so, to what you're saying, the tide is not just turning, it has already turned, right? So it is now our responsibility to show that and to make sure it never turns back. And the pledge is one of the tools that we use to fight Zionist propaganda because it creates this historic record that the masses are with Palestine.
Sorry, Ronnie, go ahead.
Well, I thought it'd be important to tell everybody where they can find the details of this anti-genocide pledge. Perhaps they want to sign it.
Yeah. So if you go on the website, antigenocidepledge.com, people can sign the pledge. Organizations can endorse it. There are graphics that you can download and post and show the world where you stand. And I just want to take just one moment to highlight that in this moment, all of us are being presented with a choice, right? You are with genocide or you are against genocide. This moment is an ultimatum, right? It's an ultimatum for international institutions, for states, for decision-making bodies who have feigned concern for nearly 20 months while standing by or actively aiding and abetting genocide. But it's also an ultimatum for all of the people around the world. It's an ultimatum for those who have stood on the sidelines or who have bloodied their hands with the massacre of tens of thousands of Palestinian children. So on the other side, the side of the majority, the side that we stand on, we have made it clear that we are not just going to, through words, support Palestine, but through action, right? The line has been drawn for those who are going to do everything in their power to stop this genocide, and those who are going to stand on the sidelines. And at this point, only one question remains, and that's what side do you stand on? Do you stand on the side of genocide, on the side of humanity? Or where. And so I encourage everyone to go onto the website. Again, that's antigenocidepledge.com, and sign the pledge if you haven't already, and send it to everyone you know. And because we must, again, through tools such as the Anti-Genocide Pledge, mark that the majority of the world stood against the first live stream genocide, that the world did not stay silent.
Well, as the old labor song goes, which side are you on? And we really appreciate you joining us here, Roua, and letting folks know about the Anti-Genocide Pledge and everything around it. You're an organizer with the Palestinian Youth Movement, and we thank you again for joining us here on the Freedom Side.
Thank you so much for having me.